came to the Alpine Center this morning, I had to think about a 10-page report. And I said, well, you guys got to help me because I got to add some pictures and I got to add and Chris gets up and he says, oh, we have 3 minutes. I looked at him, you want me to put 10,000 years in 3 minutes? Anyway, my name is, I like to introduce myself. My name is Pat Joe. I'm Tagish Kwan. I was born and raised at Marsh Lake. I'm a descendant from the Marsh Lake chief. My great-grandmother is buried where the hospital is. She was the eldest daughter of the Marsh Lake chief, and her name was Saki. In 1907, my grandmother, who raised me and delivered me on a trap line, she was born where the hospital is. So, yeah, so where Marsh Lake is, where Army Beach is, was a big traditional village, and where Swan Haven is, and the Bible camp was longhouses. And I'm one of the only First Nation that has her traditional homestead and live on her traditional homestead at Marsh Lake. It's an old haunted house. I'm scared to walk into the bigger side because I'll fall in. I live on the shores of Marsh Lake. I'm also belong to the Wolf clan and the Ducklawady clan, which is the killer whale clan. I'm part of the land and I'm part of the water. So our stories will reflect that. One of the things that we deal with at the department, ILC, is identity. Who you are and where you come from. Elders always say that. Who are you? Where do you come from? Like I'm talking about myself, I introduce who I am, where I'm from, I introduce my ancestors. And we got colonism. I like to say contact because you talk to the elders, they don't understand what that means. Relocation, residential schools, Indian Act, you've been adopted, you've gone into foster homes, and you've been institutionalized. So many of the students do not know their identity because of, this is just to name a few. Identity, who I am and where I come from. So I'm going to keep repeating that. As a First Nation Métis Inuit student, I must know my family identity. One needs to know one's culture, identity, and strengthen it. There is not one culture for all First Nation. Each nation has its own culture. It has its own customs, it has its own beliefs, it has its own tradition, and it has its worldview. Cultural practice, symbolism, symbols, and belief system are influenced by each nation's unique experience on the land and with each other, and are always connected with the spiritual world. As of today's date, ILC has 174 students. 86 are First Nation Inuit or Inuit ancestry. The Individual Learning Center is a drop-in learning center for youth aged 15 and 21 who are looking for an alternative to the regular school system. We use oral history storytelling to find out who you are and where you come from and have an understanding what the First Nation values and beliefs are. We integrate First Nation ways of knowing into all subject areas. We integrate First Nation art projects geared towards counseling and healing. We have students that come into ILC, like I said, that were being adopted. And I'm just going to give you an example of 2 students that came in a couple of weeks ago. And I noticed they were new. So I went over and shook their hand. They're about 19, 20 years old, and I shook their hand. And I said, oh, where are you from? You know, the first thing I asked, where are you from? And he says, well, I know I'm from the Cree area. I'm from Saskatchewan. He said, the last thing I remember about my family and everything, he says, my mother threw a beer can at me and I was 2 years old. No, my job is cut out for me, you know. So I said, oh, well, we still need to know your stories. We need to find out a little bit more. Who's your cousins? Who's your family? And who do you belong? You know, your sense. So I'm really searching for sense of belonging. So just turn around, I shake this other boy's hand, and I said, oh, what's your name? And he gives me his name, and I said, oh, you come from a well-known family here in the Yukon. He says, I don't know my family. So, oh my God, this is just 2 kids I've talked to in the last 5 minutes. So those are the realities that we're faced at the Individual Learning Center. They don't know who they are. They do not know where they come from. Yes, a lot of the students come in and say, yes, I'm from the Bantanquichin, they name their First Nation, but they don't know what the meaning of the wolf and the crow and what the laws are, what their traditional laws are. It doesn't give them identity until you know who you are, where you come from. And the only way that I can say to help the teachers is really read those stories, those traditional and those oral stories, because it will connect to the land, it will connect to the mountains, it'll connect to the rivers, it will connect to everything that child needs to learn if you can follow the oral stories. Thank you.